Welcome to a video lecture on theories, practice periods, and the domains of child development. I'm going to just give you an introduction to this class and some of the theories and concepts that we will be learning over the next couple of weeks. In this study of child development, this course is designed to be an introductory course. And part of the introduction to the study of child development is we will be telling you research based on the study of children for the ages conception or the prenatal period through about 18, 19, 20, kind of emerging adulthood as you're an adolescent, emerging into young adulthood. We'll also be looking at children through a lens of the domains of development as well, which is physical, so how we move our body and how we exist in space, and also how we use the sensory parts of our body as well, what we can hear, see, taste, smell. And then we'll also be doing social and emotional, which is sometimes called psychosocial, but it's our how we relate to other people, and then also how we process, regulate, and identify our emotional states as well. We also have cognitive, and in this class we have put language into cognitive. Language and communication are very interestingly put in the cognitive, which is our thinking domain a lot, because there is a lot of reasoning, the ability to use language, but language is also communication, which all individuals have and most animals have as well. So these are the areas of development that we'll be going into in this class. In the class, for each period of development, which is prenatal, infancy, early childhood, middle childhood, adolescence, we've further divided it up so that you have the opportunity to learn about physical, cognitive, and psychosocial for each area. So you'll learn about an infancy and toddler. So from birth to 3, you'll learn about physical, social, emotional, and cognitive. For early childhood, the same, you'll look at all 3 of those domains. So you'll understand how children have the ability to learn, how they have the ability to interact with others, and how they have the ability to move throughout their lifespan. All right, another one that we're going to look at is, and I wanted to bring a little bit more into what all of these areas is physical would be your gross motor, which I've talked about a little bit, and we will go very much into detail in this class. Running, jumping, crawling, pulling to stand, going to the bathroom, anything like that is typically considered physical gross motor development. And then we have fine motor, which is the ability to use your fingers to put Cheerios in your mouth or to draw, anything like that, or the ability to flip through and read a book as well, is all parts of our fine motor development. Psychosocial, as I said before, is often called social and emotional, but it's the ability to identify and regulate our emotional states, to have self-help skills, so the ability to take care of yourself when you need to, and then your relationships and your ability to sustain relationships with others. Then cognitive, once again, is our ability to think, to reason, to communicate, to use language, to learn throughout our lifespan, and also creativity. We also try to place these domains, so physical, social, emotional, and cognitive, into a context, which it's very, very important. Our race, our culture, ethnicity, the language that we speak, the family that we come from, the environment in which we're raised, our socioeconomic status, genetics and epigenetics, which we'll go into, and then where you are in time and history all play into the context of who you are and how you're raising children. It's really, really interesting to look back. How did we used to look at and understand children is very different now than it was for my parents, my grandparents, looking back millennia, looking back into history, how we have raised children. Very much it is always changing and evolving, and also has a lot to do with our culture and our ethnicity, how we're raised, the languages that we speak. So we try to take all of the domains and periods of child development that I just talked about and also kind of put them into an interrelated context. All of these areas are being changed and shaped by your environment, your family, your culture as well. Some of the other areas that we'll look at is kind of the idea of normative versus non-normative events. So a normative event is an event that affects many people, and a non-normative event just really affects the individual. So a normative event could be something like the Parkland shooting that we had very recently. It was something that was very shocking to everybody on Valentine's Day. A bunch of students lost their lives in a school shooting down in Florida. With our news, it was very heavily publicized. But a non-normative would probably be for those individual families. It really affected them on an individual level as well, that they lost a friend, lost a child, lost somebody, a loved one in this kind of shocking episode of violence. We also have cohorts and historical generations. So a cohort is typically a group of people generally born in the same time. So you could consider the grade that you're in, or if you and many of the students in some of your classes at community college are within the same couple of years of age of each other, you're typically a cohort going through community college together. A historical generation is a group of people influenced by historical events. So my husband still has his grandfather in his life. He's in his 90s. His historical generation was young men who went to World War II together. So we all kind of have these. So some more examples are a normative event would have been 9/11 in Afghanistan and Iraq. And so for me, I was working my first job when that happened, and I remember that morning very, very clearly. It also has shaped military children and families into a cohort group of children born before or after these deployments. So I worked for the military for a long time, and my dad was in the Navy. So we typically refer to the children who were born right after 9/11 and our deployments to Afghanistan and Iraq as the new normal. They were children born at the same time who experienced all of these deployments and a lot of changes in their life in a very formative time in their life as well. Then non-normative would be events could be such as a military child who was part of that cohort group of children born after 9/11 who experienced many deployments. So that's not that's normative, is that the child was in a cohort group and they were experiencing this together. But the non-normative would be that that child had a parent die in combat. So that would be non-normative, and then it just affected that individual. And then as a historical generation, we're all experiencing 9/11 together, and we were all shaped by it, and that it changed history as well. All right, so these are some perspectives and theorists. We have psychoanalytic, learning, cognitive, contextual, and sociobiological. I wanted to put this all on one page for you guys, but believe me, the rest of this class is going to be devoted to learning about what's the difference between Pavlov and his dog, and Skinner and his birds. Who was Piaget? How was he different than Vygotsky? Who was Erikson? What did he think? How did Bronfenbrenner and all of his circles change how we think about children? So this is all going to seem really, really overwhelming to you, but the rest of the class is devoted to these perspectives and theorists. I do like to put it on one page so you can kind of see it, so you can always come back to this page as well if you need additional support and understanding. And then I also want to show you, we have a Pinterest page. So here is the link, but if you just go to Pinterest and you hit chdv, which is how we in community colleges typically abbreviate child development, is CH for child and then DV for development. If you hit chdv 150, it'll take you to my Pinterest page, and I will show that to you guys right now. All right, and right here, I've got child development, I've got anti-bias education, diversity, children's mental health. Some of these things are, if you get deeper into child development or you're going to become a teacher, you're going to want to hit some of these areas. But the one that's really, if you are just learning about child, is this board, theories and theorists. So it has quotes, it has notes, it has ideas, it has infographics, lots of great information about the perspectives, theories, and theorists that we're going to be learning about in class. So please check this out. This is a great place to learn more about our theories and theorists. And also, as you're writing your observations, I have linked some pages that link theories to the domains of child development. So if you saw physical development a lot in your observation, you could come here and you could look at what are some of the domains, what are some of the theorists to the types of play that you saw. So this is going to be a great page when you are writing a research paper and you're coming up with ideas. And this is also going to be a great page as well as you're writing observations and you're trying to link what you saw the child do to the theories and concepts. All right, I'm going to go back to the web page. So that's a great resource once again. All right, so how do we know all of these things about children? What we've kind of done over the last about 150 to almost 200 years is we've done a lot of research on children, starting with Sigmund Freud all the way back in time in the 1800s. We have been observing children when we've been having careful studies of them. We've been studying their culture. We've been studying them over time. We've studied them in experiments in labs as well. I have twins. When they were born, I was invited to go to UCSD and do experiments on them. It's not what you think. They were just little babies. What we did, and one of them is I would hold them in a carrier, and they would be looking at a TV screen, and then the clinician or the person who was studying the children would see where their eyes were going, depending on what they saw on the screen. So that's how I say we kind of study children. We're not like putting them in little mazes, and we don't treat them really weird. We don't shock them with things, anything like that. But we do studies on them to see what's their perception of objects that they see on a computer screen. How do they perceive changes in their environment? So that's what we mean by experiments. I've loved having twins and being able to take them to UCSD and getting to see how they learn by setting them up into kind of simple little studies and experiments like that. Another great one, if you ever wanted to see a really interesting documentary about the lives of children on YouTube, it's called the Up series. And what they've done is for the last 49 years, they've been checking in with a group of children every 7 years. So they started when they were 7, 14, all the way up until they are now in their 60s or late 50s, I believe. And so they've been studying them for all of these years, and it's really amazing to kind of see how these once children have grown up into individuals. It gives us a lot of information on how children in a particular cohort or how grow up, what historical events, how it shapes them, and then those normative and non-normative events as well, because they're all individuals, but they're exactly the same age. So how have they grown up over the last 50 years together? Some other great ones, if you're interested, are the marshmallow experiment on YouTube, which is a great and fairly funny experiment that we do with children, where we're offering them marshmallows, and would they take them or not, depending on some of the questions and some of the reasoning that we gave to them. All right, so we also use this idea of correlation versus causation. And so we do a lot of research methods and methodologies, statistics and data in order to inform us about children, in order to make the best possible decisions about children. And that's why when you're writing a research paper, we ask that you use scholarly articles, journals, books, texts, anything that has been peer reviewed in order to understand and to learn more about children. In this case, we use this so that we know the quality information that we're giving to you is as correct as we know at this point in time. So other people and other researchers have looked at the information that we've gleaned about children through observations or lab experiments or longitudinal studies, and we've made sure that we can make some really good ideas about children, and we can give it to you in the best way possible as well. So part of this is understanding the difference between a correlation and a causation. Correlations, and my video is not playing right now, but a correlation is typically changes in data that we can say might be associated together and they might not, whereas causation is really different as well. So causation indicates a completely different thing. If we're going to say that one thing caused another, that's a really, really big step. So a lot of areas of child development are based on correlation, but not always as well. And in the video, they show really funny clips about how, what's one of them? That ice cream causes drowning. So we've seen spikes in data that when people are consuming lots of ice cream, there's also lots of drownings at the same time. But that would be a really big leap of understanding to say that eating ice cream causes you to drown. More likely is that there's a correlation between it being hot and wanting to eat ice cream outside, and also it being hot and you wanting to go for a swim. More people in the water, less lifeguards, anything like that might lead to more drowning. But the idea that ice cream consumption and drowning are caused by each other is really quite a big jump. And we don't want to make those types of jumps. Those are not good research. It's not good methodologies. It's not good knowledge about child development. So whenever possible, we like to say that there's a correlation, and we try to hold off onto causation until we know for sure that that has happened. If you need more information about correlation or causation when writing your research paper, please reach out to me so I can help you understand research methodologies and methods as well. So this is a very short lecture just introducing the class to you. We have domains of child development, we have periods of child development, and we have our theories and theorists of child development as well. So for the rest of the class, we are going to be looking at children from these perspectives through the periods and domains as part of the environment around them, that they affect their environment and their environment affects them, and that there are individual experiences and also larger historical generations and cohort experiences as well versus what individuals experience as well. And then also, we're always going to remember, and I will link to research whenever possible, because the study of children and childhood is really based in research and our understanding from observations, from case studies, from scholarly work about how children learn and development, and it's very much steeped in that. So what we are telling you is based on the best knowledge that we have at Children at this point. Thanks so much, and I'll see you guys online.